Welcome to FIAR 432 video production. Kinds of formats, different ways to tell a story through video. In this episode we're going to look at the various ways in which you could put the ingredients that we've been looking at together to tell a story in a full-blown format. We've looked at kinds of shots, kinds of motion, different story elements, different elements for video production, and different compositional concepts and ratios and so forth. And now we're going to put it all together into actual story forms, and these are basically the formats that you could use. Now there are other formats. I'm going to focus on a certain select group because I feel they're more appropriate for the kind of productions that are possible at the level that we're working at and with the budgets that we're working at. So anyway, we'll start now. The formats we're going to look at now are basically oriented towards the truth, storytelling that's oriented to actual real stories or real subjects, and I think that hopefully after you've seen these you're going to get some idea of how to put together what you want to do as your final project for the class. That's one of the reasons why we're going over the formats, besides just to show you what is involved in video production, but also for you to maybe think about what you want to do for a final project. Anyway, this is the first page of the handout. There are 6 formats covered here, and we're going to start with them one at a time. The first format we're going to look at is the documentary format. If you read what is said on the handout that comes along with this, it says, the purpose of this format is to present an in-depth exploration of a subject, requires extensive research and the services of an expert or experts on the subject in question. It usually is highly edited and strongly influenced by a director. These are concepts that are important to understand. The only problem I would have for you doing a documentary in this class is that it does require a good deal of research, and as it's mentioned, they're usually experts or an expert that will be relied upon to provide the credibility factor for a documentary. So I don't really recommend that you do a documentary or at this stage of the game, although I think it would be a great area to go into. But we're going to look at some of the characteristics of documentaries, and I'll disappear here. As it mentions, it's an in-depth exploration of a subject. There have been a number of very good documentaries in recent times, usually focusing on great historical figures. The Civil War with Ken Burns was a great one. He also did one on jazz. There was an excellent one on the civil rights movement called Eyes on the Prize. The thing you'll find with these is that they actually got photographs and film footage and all kinds of things that complemented what they were doing, and it may take in some cases years to put these things together. In Eyes on the Prize, they actually interviewed people that were involved in the various movements and things 20, 30 years after they actually did what they did. So as I say, this is probably not a one that you would want to focus on, but I think it's an excellent one should you want to in the long run. If you want to get into documentaries, please talk to me. I'll be happy to discuss with you the possibilities. The next format is something that you could conceivably do as a project. This is called cinema verite, and cinema verite is basically, it's French. The terminology is French. It means truth in motion. It is shot in the subjective mode, which means that you are looking through the eyes of the director, the camera person, and it's almost the opposite of a documentary in that it is basically the camera person is the director, whereas in a documentary it might be somebody separate from the actual camera persons involved. So the cinema verite, and I'll do my little demonstration here, is basically it is truth in motion. It is shooting through the eyes of the camera person. People do this a lot without realizing it. Even people using their the video cameras in their cell phones end up doing it. But essentially, you are showing the world through the eyes of the camera. They are your eyes. And I mentioned that a program that's very popular these days that uses the cinema verite technique is Cops. You literally are running side by side with the police officers, and there have been some dramatic uses of the concept. There was a movie that was basically a fictitious cinema verite, which was the Blair Witch Project, which all you see, the whole movie, you see through the eyes of the camera person, oftentimes being killed or being tortured or whatever. So cinema verite is an effective medium, and I do recommend it. One of the characteristics you'll notice about it is that you'll actually see either the hands of the camera person appear. Sometimes the camera will actually nod because you're seeing through the camera person's eyes nodding when they're being talked to, and so forth. So it is pure subjective mode, and is a good possible project. So if you want to do cinema verite as your project, let me know, and I'll be happy to talk with you about it. The next format is called event coverage. This is probably what I do most of, is event coverage, and is shot in pure objective mode. It is moderately influenced by a director, but it is primarily fashioned around the event being covered. I put here, for example, weddings or bar mitzvahs or forums or festivals. Your video is literally going to be scripted by the nature of the event itself. And I'll make myself disappear here, and I'll show you some of my little images I've put together. For instance, if you're doing a speech or whatever, it's going to follow the format of the speech. You will use, or a wedding, it's going to involve the cutting of the cake, the saying of the ceremony. If it were a theatrical performance, it's literally going to follow carefully what is going on in the performance. But the creativity comes in when you choose your long shots, when you choose your close-ups, and so forth, which makes it a much more artistic process than just strictly covering an event. You're actually doing something which requires some creativity, particularly if you're doing an event coverage of some kind of dance. The camera literally has to kind of dance with the people involved, and so there is a good deal of creativity that can be involved even in something like event coverage. Also in weddings and things like that, the angles you choose. If you can get into a good angle where you can see the bride and the groom, their faces when they're saying their vows or whatever, these things can really enhance the effect of your event coverage. Again, these are matters of truth, and unlike the documentary, which is heavily influenced by a director, this is only moderately influenced by a director. Cinema verite was minimally influenced by a director, and this one is, again, moderately influenced by a director. So, for instance, your director might be the person who has hired you to do the event coverage. They may want you to focus on a few details, and as long as you do that, you'll be in good shape. Okay, the next format is referred to as news coverage. If you read what it says, this format uses the objective mode. It seeks to capture the key points of a newsworthy event. The influence of the director usually centers around the philosophy of the institution that sponsors the coverage. In pure journalistic circles, this would entail pure focus on facts. The process often is referred to as electronic news gathering. Originally, news coverage was done by film, so it used to be called film news gathering back in the old days, prior to the late 70s. And I'm going to show you a few things here so that you can see my little symbolic journey here, and I'll disappear. Key thing is that you're going out to gather information. You're trying to cover something that is news, but the philosophy of whoever is sponsoring you is going to prevail. And one of the things that I have pointed out to my students is that maybe you haven't noticed it, but if you look at the various networks, in here I show you CBS and NBC and ABC. These networks have a prevailing philosophy. For instance, CBS, which stands for Columbia Broadcasting System, tends to be more oriented to the Catholic faith. NBC is more predominantly influenced by the Jewish faith, and ABC more Protestant. They don't come right out and say that, but there is that tendency for them to be more prone to focus on those things. You'll notice a lot more emphasis on looking at the Pope or Roman Catholic issues on Columbia Broadcasting System. Much more Jewish humor on NBC, and ABC much more of a Protestant emphasis. And so this has an influence on the news gathering. Another thing that you will notice in the news gathering process, especially if you ever see news camera persons coming out to an event, they usually come in, they look for a key phrase that's being said by a speaker, or a key phrase said by somebody who's at a particular scene of a news event. They will try to get what they call a sound bite. If they're coming to hear somebody talk about change, as soon as somebody says something that seems to summarize that, they will go on that, and once they've gotten it, they'll get up and leave. Unlike someone who is doing an event coverage, who will usually stay for the entire event, a news coverage person will usually come in, just get a significant news bite or a sound bite from whoever is a key person on the scene, and then will usually leave. Unless, of course, it's some kind of dramatic ongoing event, in which case they may string together a number of sound bites. But essentially, news coverage, this is what they're doing. If you want to do something like news coverage for a project, I would like you to talk to me about it. We'll discuss what might be your options. This next format is actually one which I would certainly recommend for certain students here. I know that teachers now are being required to provide this. This is called a profile, this format. And if you read what it says this format presents a brief sampling of a person, place, or things, actions, or operations. Because the subject is usually viewed in the middle of action, the camera has to capture the key figure from the side. That's why they use the term profile. Like you're looking at me here from the side, that's called a profile. That's why they use that term. Hence the term profile. The profile accomplishes much of what a documentary does, but is much briefer. So in other words, a profile of yourself would be like a little mini documentary of the things that you do. This could be very important for websites. This could be very important for jobs, getting a job. Somebody might want to see a profile of your teaching style if you're a teacher, or if you're in sales, they might want to see you doing a sales pitch. And if you ever watch the various news broadcasting things, we were just talking about news coverage, they will often do little profiles of each news person. So-and-so is an action reporter, another one is investigative reporter, and they'll literally show you little profiles of them doing those kinds of news gathering jobs. In the case of a teacher, it might show you teaching math and then teaching English and interacting with students. But again, most of these shots would be shot from the side, or as they say, a profile, because you're being seen in the act of doing what you're doing. And supposedly you'll be doing them honestly, so you'll probably have to get somebody else to help you do it. You might be able to do it yourself. You could set a camera up in the back and then edit out the coming and going from the camera. But basically a profile would be a good video to do. Your final project I'm looking at, I'm hoping won't be more than about 3 to 5 minutes. So a profile would be an excellent thing for you to think about doing as a production. And again, these particular formats we've been talking about are oriented to truth and reality, and you in a sense can be your own director on this, but also if you have goals and objectives, like if you have to send a profile off to a particular institution, you might want to find out what they do first, what kind of profiles they have. You might check on the web and see if they've posted other people's profiles. There are a number of different things you can do. If you're doing a profile on a particular job, I would recommend doing homework first. One thing you could do is look at the Occupational Outlook. That's online. It's a federal job program that's offered online. It's also offered in a publication that you can get at the library. It will tell you about different jobs and what they expect. And so in a sense, it would help you to put together a storyboard for the kind of profile you want to do. Because if they tell you what the job description is, you're going to want to make sure that your profile includes a lot of the things that are involved in the job description for that job. Again, I've put together a few examples of images associated with profiles. You might have a sports profile. It could involve that. It could be your ability to work online. It could be profile of kinds of products you produce, in jobs that you do, and so forth. So there are lots of different things that could be profiled. This will be one of the things that you should consider. The next format that we're looking at here, which is the last one on your first page of the handout, is called the image format. And if you read what it says, this format is usually very brief. It is highly edited, and that's the strong thing. Highly edited, has strong music and or sound elements. Although it should be truthful, it prevents a very idealized view of the subject. They usually use image videos in political ads, corporate commercials, and so forth. In these things, and they're usually very short, the person in a political one might be featured walking with their family and their kids, and basically the music is very upbeat and makes them look good. The sounds are very triumphant, and essentially you would think that they could walk on water, and that's essentially what the image video is trying to do. Is trying to give almost a superhuman kind of view of subjects in question. And I'll show you my little montage of images here to kind of symbolize it. They might show some incredible statistics, show the person in a very idealized position, show them receiving all kinds of awards. These are with lots of editing and lots of fancy music. So an image video is something that you might want to do, especially if you're going to be running for office, in which case you probably are going to need a bigger budget than what I'm aiming at you working with. But it depends. You might be able to use an image video on a website to kind of make people think that you're the best thing since sliced bread. I think that the profile is better, but you might think for some reason or another that the image video fits your needs better. It's up to you. We're going to pick up on these formats in the next episode. This will be episode 8 coming up. Some more of the formats that I want you to look at. This concludes Module 7, kinds of formats, different ways to tell a story through video. We'll pick up on the next module, which will pick up on kinds of formats part 2. Thanks.